Think about the golden fields of grain that feed our entire world. Most people just see a simple ingredient for their morning toast today. Actually, wheat is the most powerful political tool in human history right now. It has the power to build great empires and tear them down. When the price of bread goes up, the streets start to burn. We are currently facing a silent crisis that could change everything soon. Let us look at how a tiny seed controls the global economy. This is not just about food, it is about power and control. Ancient Rome knew that free bread was the key to social peace. If the grain ships did not arrive, the citizens would start riots. This was the original bread and circuses strategy used by the emperors. Thousands of years later, the basic rules of power have not changed. Look at what happened during the famous French Revolution long ago. The price of flour rose so high that families could not eat. Angry mothers marched to the royal palace to demand bread for children. That single movement ended the rule of kings in that great nation. It proves that a hungry stomach is the most dangerous political force. Let us move forward to the year 2010 today. Most people remember the Arab Spring as a fight for new democracy. That is only half of the story that the media told you. The real spark was the soaring price of wheat in the market. Russia had a terrible heat wave that destroyed their entire grain crop then. They decided to stop all exports to protect their own domestic supply. This caused the price of bread to double in many poor countries. When people cannot afford to buy bread, they have nothing to lose. They took to the streets and overthrew several powerful governments very quickly. This shows that food security is the foundation of every stable society. Now, we are seeing the same patterns emerging in our modern world. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine has changed the entire global map. These two nations produce 30% of all wheat sold on Earth. When the ports were closed, the supply chain broke for everyone else. Think about the massive scale of this global business for a moment. Wheat is the most traded crop on the planet for a reason. It is easy to store and provides essential calories for billions today. The business of wheat runs on very thin profit margins every year. Farmers have to deal with rising costs for fuel and expensive fertilizer. Natural gas is the main ingredient used to create high-quality fertilizer. When energy prices go up, the cost of growing wheat follows closely. This creates a ripple effect that touches every single part of society. Shipping companies are also charging more to move grain across the oceans. A single cargo ship can carry 60,000 tons of heavy grain. If insurance costs rise, the price of that grain must also rise. We are seeing a perfect storm of factors coming together right now. Climate change is making the weather very unpredictable for all grain farmers. India recently had to ban wheat exports because of a record heat wave. China is facing massive floods that are threatening their own harvest lately. When big countries stop selling, the smaller countries suffer the most today. Imagine being a father in Egypt trying to feed a large family. You spend half of your daily income just to buy simple bread. If the price goes up by 20%, your family goes hungry. This is the reality for millions of people in the Middle East. The government has to spend billions on subsidies to keep prices low. If they run out of money, the social contract will finally break. This is why the wheat crisis is a matter of national security. Business analysts are watching the wheat futures market with a keen eye. Speculators can drive the price up based on fear and bad rumors. Sometimes the price rises even when there is enough grain in storage. The market reacts to what might happen in the next 6 months. If a drought is predicted in Kansas, the global price will jump. This volatility makes it very hard for poor nations to plan ahead. They are forced to buy at high prices to avoid social unrest. There is another layer to this complex global business story now. Fertilizer shortages are making it harder to grow enough food for everyone. Russia is also a major exporter of the chemicals used in fertilizer. When trade is restricted, farmers in Brazil and Africa cannot grow crops. This means the next harvest might be even smaller than the last. We are looking at a multi-year crisis that is just starting. The technology used in wheat farming has not changed much in decades. We are still relying on the same basic methods from the past. Some companies are trying to develop wheat that can survive very salty soil. Others are looking at vertical farming, but it is still too expensive. Bulk grains like wheat need massive amounts of land and bright sun. You cannot easily grow enough wheat in a small city warehouse yet. This means we are still at the mercy of the natural environment. If the rain does not fall, the world does not eat today. Let us talk about the role of the big grain traders. There are four major companies that control most of the global trade. They are often called the ABCD companies by experts. These massive corporations have been around for over 100 years now. They own the elevators, the ships, and the processing plants everywhere. When prices are high, these companies often make record-breaking profits. This creates a lot of tension between the corporations and the public. People wonder why bread is expensive while traders are getting very rich. It is a classic example of how global capitalism works today, right? These companies argue that they provide the logistics that keep us alive. Without them, the grain would just rot in the distant fields. They manage the risk of moving food across very dangerous trade routes. However, their power over the global food supply is truly immense lately. The relationship between wheat and currency is also very important to understand. Wheat is almost always traded in United States dollars on the market. If the dollar is strong, wheat becomes more expensive for other nations. A country like Lebanon has to pay more as their currency loses value. This creates a double blow for the people living in those places. They deal with high global prices and a weak local currency too. This is a recipe for a total economic collapse very soon indeed. We have seen this happen in several nations over the last year. People are trading their jewelry and cars just to buy basic flour. It is a desperate situation that most people in the West ignore. We take our full grocery stores for granted every single day now. But the system that fills those shelves is actually very fragile today. One major disruption in the Black Sea can empty those shelves quickly. 8. Have you ever thought about the history of the Green Revolution? In the middle of the 20th century, we changed how we farm. Scientists created new types of wheat that produced much more grain per acre. This saved over 1 billion people from starving to death back then. It was a miracle of modern science and very hard work too. But that system relies heavily on chemicals and lots of fresh water. Now, we are reaching the limits of what that system can do. The soil is getting tired and the water is running out slowly. We need a second green revolution to feed our growing world population. If we do not innovate, we will face a massive global shortage. The population of the world is heading toward 10 billion people soon. All of those people will need bread and noodles to survive daily. This is the biggest challenge that our species has ever faced before. Business leaders are now looking at alternative crops like millets and quinoa. These grains are much tougher and can grow in very dry places. However, the world is already built around the production of cheap wheat. Every bakery and factory is designed to handle wheat flour specifically. Changing the entire global food system would take many decades to finish. We are stuck with wheat as our primary source of daily energy. This means we must find a way to make it more stable. Some countries are building massive strategic reserves of grain for the future. China has stored enough wheat to feed its people for 1 year. Other nations do not have the money or space to do this. They live hand to mouth and rely on the daily global trade. This creates a world of winners and losers based on food security. The winners have full silos and the losers have empty plates today. Question: the impact of the wheat crisis goes beyond just the economy. It changes how nations interact with each other on the global stage. Russia uses its grain exports as a weapon of soft power now. They can choose to sell to their friends and ignore enemies. This forces smaller countries to take sides in big global power struggles. If you need wheat to survive, you will listen to the seller. This is a new form of diplomacy that we are seeing today. It is often called food politics by the analysts in the capital. We are moving away from a world of free and open trade. Instead, we are seeing a world of gated blocks and secret deals. This makes the global market even more unstable for everyone involved. The price of bread is now tied to the words of leaders. What can we do to solve this massive problem for our future? We need to invest in local farming in every single country now. Relying on a few big exporters is a very dangerous game today. We also need to reduce the amount of grain used for fuel. A lot of wheat and corn is turned into ethanol for cars. In a food crisis, we should prioritize feeding people over driving cars. This is a controversial topic that politicians do not like to discuss. But these are the hard choices we will have to make soon. We must also stop the massive amount of food waste we see. 1/3 of all food produced is thrown away every single year. If we save that grain, the crisis would be much less severe. It requires a change in how we think about our daily meals. Bread should be treated like the precious resource that it truly is. The future of our world depends on how we handle this grain. If we ignore the signs, we are asking for more violent revolutions. History is a very clear teacher when it comes to hungry people. They will not stay quiet while their children are suffering from hunger. The wheat crisis is a warning for all of us to hear. It is time to pay attention to the business of our food. Our stable lives depend on the success of the next wheat harvest. The next time you see a field of grain, remember its power. It is the fuel of our history and the key to peace. We must protect this golden crop for the sake of our children. The world is watching and the clock is ticking for us all. We have the tools to fix this if we work together now. Let us hope that we choose the path of cooperation in life.